Well, this is a double whammy EPOCH update as I missed last week's, and that's because, my computer needs to be shot. That's the only logical conclusion I can come to. I just need to yell, pull! Have it shot out into the sky and blow it away. But anyhow, so EPOCH update is a rundown of the 4 articles I've published in the past week, and since we're doing 2 weeks, I got 8 articles. Quite a few of them, honestly. I think the title is descriptive enough that I don't need to say much. And of course, all the links will be in the information section. And as a side note, something I've mentioned before is you can actually help me financially. You can support me financially, actually, just by clicking on these articles and opening them. Because I get paid a little bit, a few shekels here and there, based on traffic and subscriptions to the Examiner page. So that would help a lot. So, one of the articles is in a continuing series of my replies to an atheist on to judge or not to judge. That's the latest article in that series. It's from an atheist named Neo who wrote to me and had dedicated one of his podcasts to criticizing my about page at truefreethinker.com. And so I came up with a reply, and I'm posting it in parts. This one, obviously, to judge or not to judge, that is the question, is because he did a typical taking a text out of context to make a pretext for a proof text, and claims that, well, the Bible says don't judge, that kind of thing, which is, unfortunately, that's one of those common knowledge things. And I've come to find out common knowledge are those things that everybody knows, even though nobody knows how anybody knows. And, the Bible doesn't say to judge or not to judge. That's the statement, do not judge or judge not, lest ye be judged. It's part of a complete thought. So the thought isn't just don't judge anybody, anything, anywhere, anytime. It's not that. And plus, you connect it with other statements in the New Testament. So that's what that article is about. Then there's one I called Biblical Oddities, as in strange things, odd things. And this one is about, was a man really stoned for picking up sticks? Because you might recall the Old Testament, the Tanakh, the Torah, does state that man was found picking up sticks on the Sabbath and ends up being stoned to death. Of course, this would be after a judicial review. They had a legal system they had to go through first. And so the issue is, was it really just for that? Because the text seems to imply that he was actually engaged in idolatry. But I ironed that out in the article as best as I could. And so what's interesting, if, say, somebody was coming at this from an atheist perspective, and the man actually was just stoned for picking up sticks, well, that wouldn't be condemnable because, hey, that was the relative morality of the day, right? I mean, upon what absolute moral premise would an atheist condemn that? So that's another side issue on that. Another article is a continuing series called Abortion's Arguments. And this installment is taking on the idea that males have no right to voice an opinion. Because that's how far we've gone as a society and as a world. That some people actually claim that males, just because of the fact that you're a male and you can never get pregnant, then you don't have a right to voice an opinion about abortion. Which is just simply astonishing. I don't know, I guess that'd be kind of like saying, hey, since you've never been murdered, you don't have a right to talk about murder. This kind of thing. I mean, what kind of a man would just say nothing, would just stand by and watch their child being murdered? Of course, the problem is we have many men who recommend or demand that their children in the womb be murdered. So there's another whole issue. Another article was kind of strange in a way. I called it Dichotomy Symbolism. And this is about blue versus red. Because I've started noticing here and there that there seems to be a lot about this blue versus red, red versus blue. And I don't really know what it's about. But some examples are obvious, right? The blue and red pills in the Matrix. There was a red pill in Total Recall, but in the book, there's a red and blue dichotomy going on about one of the characters of the story who, within the book, is actually a secretary that does her job topless. And so she paints one of her mammary glands blue and the other one red, or vice versa, depending on how she feels that day. Then, for instance, I just watched a brand new movie called Coherence, and there's some blue-red dichotomy in there. There's one of the Halo series is blue versus red. Boy, it shows up many places, and I don't know what it's about, but I just kind of put it out there to kind of put the idea out there and see what people have to say about it. Another article is, simply stated, why do atheist countries lead the production of child pornography? I specifically focused on Denmark in this particular article while touching lightly upon others. And asking why it is that countries that have a majority of atheists do and have for decades led the world in the production of child pornography. And so, I don't know, some ideas are thrown out there. I think the very bottom line is that if you truly believe that human life is nothing but the products of a long series of happy accidents, then, well, what is a child? It's just a merely temporarily existing bioorganism, such as you yourself are. And, so there. And I provided a lot of quotations from a lot of books that bear out the statistics and what have you. Another article was also a continuing series on Michael Heiser, on the fiery flying serpent watchers. So here we've been considering Michael Heiser, the ancient languages scholar, as he writes about angels, cherubim, seraphim, watchers, reptilian beings, in this case flying serpents, and trying to make sense of that which sometimes the Bible tells us precious little. For instance, think about the seraphim. We are only told one single thing about them, meaning in one single text alone. And so it's hard to really draw big conclusions from such little information. Another article, since we're doing 2 weeks worth, is another reply to the atheist Neo. And this one is reply to an atheist on the Terminator and Matrix mythos. This is because he calls himself Neo based on the Matrix movie, and so declares himself to be some kind of liberator of humanity because he's bringing the true light of the one and only truth, which is atheism. And so I pointed out to him that in reality, not only is the Matrix a continuation of the story in the Terminator, but that they were written by the original. Okay, so Sophia Stewart wrote a book, and this book was turned into both of the movies, which then became both of the franchises, or both of the mythos. And so she was writing a story about what it would be like for Jesus to return and what that might be like in the future. So if you read the article, you'll get some interesting details on this. And pretty soon here, I'll be reviewing 2 of Sophia Stewart's books. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in this stuff. Last article is called Color Run Warning, Hindu Ritual in Thin Disguise. This is another one of those things closely related to transformational festivals, if you know what that is, such as Burning Man and what have you, that are basically just full-blown pagan rituals of the modern day. The color run is not just one race, but is various races. You know, these kind of races like the Warrior Dash or the Tough Mudder, generally a race peppered about with obstacles and such. Well, a lot of these are starting to include the tossing about of various bright colored powders, which, by the way, I think I can't imagine how many people end up with pulmonary infections from that, especially after you've finished running a race and your lungs are pumping like crazy, and now you're breathing in all this dust. It's crazy. But anyhow, well, this throwing about of colorful dust in such a way, it looks really cool, I'll grant you that, and it must be a lot of fun, but it is in fact derived from a Hindu ritual, so I gave you the details in there. And so that is the rundown of 8 articles. Even if you don't want to read all 8, just clicking and opening all of them will help me a lot. And you know, I like to write on a lot of varied issues, so I hope that you guys appreciate that and get something out of each and every one of them. Okay? Until the next Epic Epoch update, this is the Epic Epoch update, updating you on the Epic Epoch. Say that 5 times fast.